All right, we have Desmond Torres back on the show. He returns to action next Friday night at LFA 84. He's going to take on the undefeated Richard Palencia. Desmond, good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good to have you here. We're 8 days away from this fight, your first fight since the Contender Series. How excited are you to just get back in there and showcase your skills again?
I'm beyond excited. Felt really motivated especially since the last fight. It was a big fight for me. Trying to hit the goal that I wanted to get to the UFC. Didn't happen as soon as that I wanted, so I took my training into like next level, more motivated, set me into reality. So for this camp, like I just been beyond prepared for weeks. So I'm excited for this fight.
So we have to sort of address this giant elephant in the room with everything going on in the world with the coronavirus been spreading like crazy. We're seeing events being held in empty arenas, even being canceled. The NBA just suspended their entire season indefinitely. The NFL is doing different things as well. How much is this worrying you? Not just because of the fight being booked for next weekend, but for, I guess, your overall health and the health of those around you right now.
It's very crazy. I actually just got a text message this morning. Team Oyama, we have a mass amount of fighters. Last week we had a fighter, or he was going to fight this weekend on Combates. Combates closed their event. I just got one of the fighters I was going to fight this Friday, also in California, just got told this morning that his events are going to be closed. So it's a very crazy thing because I remember when they first talked about it. It was in the air, but now it's closing events like you said. I got my eye on this fight and everything, but I'm also keeping a little nose out, or I have my wits about to just in case if it does close. It seems like a very serious event. It's rapidly growing. I've been keeping up. I don't keep up that much with the news, but lately I've been watching a lot more, and it seems like they're trying to get it all under control. But at the end of the day, I just hope everyone's safe. No matter what, I rather everyone be safe to fight another day than just never fight again.
Should LFA take some precaution here, like maybe postpone or take the fans out of the equation? You guys fight in an empty arena. Like, what are your thoughts on it, if you don't mind me asking?
I've seen a lot of these events that are closed, or like the UFC was thinking about not having fans there, and sometimes I do think having fans there plays a part for some people. Some people feed off of fan vibes, or some people die from the fan vibes. So plays like a weird event. Like I went from fighting in big arenas like with LFA, with Bellator, and I fought like on the contenders where there wasn't much fans. No matter what, I think everyone should just be concerned for everyone's health. Like it seemed like at first, like a lot of people were getting sick, and now like a lot of athletes are getting sick. So I don't know how to really go about it, but it seems like it's getting a little bit bigger. I'm pretty sure LFA got all their wits about them, and they're gonna make the right decision. But no matter what it is, if it's there to fight, I'm already ready to fight. If they're gonna postpone it, let it be postponed.
So if you had the choice between fighting in an empty arena or pushing the fight back like 3 months to fill the arena, what would you prefer?
I'm down to scrap next week. If they've called me in and they said, hey, we're only gonna fight, and there's only gonna be one team at a time allowed in the building, by God, I'm there.
So let's stay positive. Let's go for it as if everything will go on as scheduled. But I do want to go back to that Contender Series fight, if you don't mind. We had spoken leading up to it. You took the fight on very short notice. Your opponent, Steve Garcia, came in 3.5 pounds overweight. You went in there. You guys had a fun fight while it lasted, and then he was able to finish you at the end of that first round. What were you at least able to take away from that experience, despite the fight not going the way you had hoped?
Even though I had a lot of people make excuses, I never make excuses for my losses. I face them with adversity, and I took it as like, I needed more training. I need to step more things up. No matter what people say, oh, the weight or the size or anything. At the end of the day, we're there to fight. A smaller man could beat up a bigger man. A bigger man could beat up it could go both ways. So I took that fight as, hey, I lost. I lost because of these reasons. I need to get back into the gym. I need to fix these reasons. Right after that fight, I ended up going back to Virginia, where my immediate family is, and I actually went to DC a little bit and worked with a lot of boxers. I felt like my stand-up needed a lot more work. I needed more work with the defense, needed more work with people pressuring me. Sometimes being like a little bigger 25er, I'm able to fit in with some 35ers. So sometimes like a size advantage doesn't play a big difference for me when I'm training. So I ended up going to like a lot of different boxing gyms, kickboxing gyms, and I forced myself to be in uncomfortable positions with my jiu-jitsu and wrestling background.
So I'm not asking you to make excuses or anything, but when you found out that he missed weight, did that affect you at all, at least from a mental standpoint? I mean, I know you guys had trained together. You knew Steve pretty well. And to have him miss weight heading into a fight, it was almost like you fought a 55er. So I don't think anyone's going to look at it as an excuse if it did affect you. But did it?
It I will say I have a very strong takedown, and every single opponent I've ever fought, I've got to the ground, and it was a little bit more difficult to get him to the ground. I mean, everyone sees Steve Garcia just fought at 155 in the UFC. Even for me to weigh at 155 is, I got to be forcing myself to eat and everything. But it did play a big advantage. It played a big advantage in wrestling. I remember being in school wrestling. They used to tell us a pound matters, But when I was sitting there at the weigh-ins, I had a lot of people telling me, advisors telling me, like, it wouldn't be bad if you didn't take that fight, or maybe, to save your record a little bit. Maybe I'll still be 7-1 or so, but I mean, it is what it is. When I'm sitting there and the UFC calls you for the first time and your whole life you've been training to get to the UFC, you're not thinking about those things. You're thinking about, hey, this is my opportunity. The weight and size, like, it's weird, but like I wasn't even looking at that. I'm just looking at, like, man, how am I gonna beat this guy? So when all that happened, I wasn't thinking right. Maybe I could have made different decisions and saved a little bit more. Maybe I would have been like going on to like a 6 or 7 fight win streak, but that's already in the past. I'm really looking forward for that, but it did play a difference. But you live and you learn.
So it's been 7 months since that fight. If memory serves you correctly, this is the longest layoff you've had in your career since, the transition from amateur to pro. What have these last 7 months been like for you?
It's been a very learning experience. Like I said, the funny thing is, Mike Davis in the UFC, I hit him up on Instagram, and shout out to Mike Davis, very nice dude, but he ended up reaching back to me, and I just had some questions about, like, because he's told me that he had a jiu-jitsu and wrestling background, and I wanted to know how he got his stand-up so well. He gave me like a lot of advice, and that's 7 months. Even though it's been a layoff, it wasn't a layoff. I've been just steady grinding on everything that I just need to work on for those past 7 months. So even for this fight, like, I feel I could have fought this fight last month and still did well. I've been fight ready for a few months. I was actually going to fight at 125 February 28th for a Combates show, but just getting hard to sign people to fight at 125. But the 7 months, like I said, I just been working, grinding, and those last like 2 months has just been like fight camp ready.
So you're scheduled to face Richard Palencia next Friday night. He's 7-0 as a pro, fights out of Arizona, trains at the MMA lab. So 2 great gyms going out of here. Did you know much about Richard when you got the contract?
To be honest, I still don't know much about Richard. Only advice I ever get is just from whatever people tell me, and that's if they know him or know of him from someone else. But I literally took this fight and I'm not taking him lightly at all. I usually look deeply into all my opponents, but I just feel like, right now I want to see who Desmond really is. I want to see what skills I'm really going to go bring. I know I had these crazy finishes or these, submission finishes or these wild fights. I got already fight of the night with LFA before, and all this other stuff. But I'm taking this fight as, hey, I'm versing an undefeated fighter. He's coming from the MMA lab. You know, he's taking his training serious. He's probably fighting full time. I'm taking him as, you know, this guy's a knockout artist with world class jiu-jitsu, with, you know, the world class wrestling game. So no matter what, and every single aspect of this fight, I got to be on my P's and Q's.
Has anybody told you anything about Richard? Have you talked to anybody who is familiar with him? Have they passed anything along to you at all?
I mean, I heard like he wrestled before, but I mean, Arizona State's really known for wrestling. I just took it as, hey, he's at the MMA lab. That's a serious gym. It's one of the world class gyms. They got a lot of UFC fighters, so you know he's training with the cream of the crop of fighters, you know, in that area. And you know, besides that, I mean, I haven't heard much more. I mean, some people told me he swings wild. I'm taking it as he swings like a boxer, though. You know, everything that people's gonna tell me, I'm just gonna add more to it. You know.
You got to adjust on the fly anyway. Some people do study all the time and watch a lot of film. Others don't. They just want to focus on themselves and making themselves the best version as a martial artist. And I feel like you've learned that lesson more on the latter side.
Yeah. I mean, I've done things before, like I fought like this EBI dude, like maybe like on my third fight, and my whole background is jiu-jitsu. I've been competing at, you know, IBJF Worlds since like 14, 15, you know. So I remember when I got told about that, like the whole game plan, you know, don't go to the ground. But you know, in reality, I tap out black belts all the time. You know, I roll with very high level dudes, competition level dudes all the time, and I do really well. So I notice, like, if I sit back here and oh, this guy is a jiu-jitsu black belt, then, you know, kind of like I ended up limiting myself, you know, and I know what I bring to the table because I see it every single day I practice when I'm with all my high level competition in the gym, or I mean, all my high level training partners in the gym.
Are you allowing yourself, I mean, you're not looking past your opponent next Friday night, but are you allowing yourself to think a little bit past it in a way? Because obviously the Contender Series matchups are starting to get put together again. Your goal is to get into the UFC. It's a goal you've had since you were a little kid, and you were right there with an opportunity. Do you feel like this is almost a tryout, so to speak, to get back there? Are you even allowing yourself to think that far?
You know, since the beginning of my career, everything has been the goal for the UFC, and I noticed I put a lot of pressure on myself, honestly, because of that. I ended up, you know, I got to win this fight because if I get to 6-1 or 7-1, you know, that's UFC level record. And you know, right now I learned how to just, you know, just believe in the process, just trust the process. You know, if LFA wants another fight, or if I don't, you know, even get into Contender Series or UFC after this fight, I'm not going to sweat it anymore. I ended up putting so much stress on myself just because, you know, I thought these things would come a lot quicker, but now I'm just taking it one fight at a time, one fight camp at a time, one day at a time.
I mean, you're super young. You're not even near your athletic prime yet. So when it's going to happen, it's just going to happen. You know, is that the way you look at it now?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you see this all going down next Friday night? Outside of just getting your hand raised, you know, what are you hoping to accomplish in that cage at LFA 84 coming back after a 7-month layoff?
Show people that I am ready to compete with the highest level, honestly, out there. You know, like, yeah, like I said, I have already high level training partners that are ranked in the UFC, and you know, I can, you know, they use me a lot for a lot of different things, and I, you know, they know I'm ready. You know, it's just about showing everyone else, like, hey, I'm ready to get stuck in there. You know, it's not even really about, like, say, like UFC anymore. It's just I want to show people, like, hey, I can compete with those guys, and I could probably, you know, knock out those guys, or I could probably submit those guys. You know, this fight coming up next week, we just had a girl fight on the LFA Texas card, and she got screwed over so hard, you know, for the judges. So even this fight, like, the only thing I have in my mind is finish this dude, no matter where this competition goes, no matter if it goes to the ground, stand up. Every aspect of the fight is a finish mentality.
As that LFA event was going on last week, Invicta was having an event as well, and they introduced open scoring for the first time. So what do you think of that concept? I don't know if you caught that event at all and got to take a look at it, but what do you think of knowing where you stand after every round. And at least if you don't want to know, the coaches don't have to tell you.
I mean, I heard about it. To be honest, like things like that don't sweat me. You know, I have a pretty. I mean, I keep it realistic in my mind. You know, like, and my coaches keep it realistic. Like, for example, if I really did lose a round, you know, if it seems iffy, you know, they'll tell me. You know, and if I really feel like it is, and I let judges and where I'm fighting at play a factor into things. So I mean, it wouldn't bother me none. It might mess some people up. I know a lot of fighters honestly go through like mental issues and they, you know, all panic. So it can end up panicking some people. But I mean, to me, nothing would change.
How do you handle the swings of the post fight? Because I know, and I've talked to a lot of fighters over the years, that when that fight ends and that feeling goes away, it bums them out. It almost like depresses them. It's like they need to have it again. How do you deal with that?
I mean, I got a little. I already had the taste of both sides of the world: the win, the loss, the hate, the love. You know, so I just learned to accept it. You know, people, you know, like people gonna love me if I win for X amount of weeks, and then when I lose, you know, people gonna hate for X amount of weeks. But no matter what, I just gotta keep going on with my day. At the end of the day, I'm still gonna be Desmond. You know, it ain't gonna bother me none. And it, you know, when it is up there, I just learned how to just embrace every moment. You know, and just live in the moments and just take it day by day. You know, when it's finally gone, it don't sweat me none. And when it is there, you know, it's cool. No matter what, I'm still go on with my day, you know. If, just like I said, if people are loving it, it's just like the sprinkle on top. You know, it's the sprinkle on the icing. But if it isn't, you know, the cake's still there.
I love that, man. Desmond Torres back on the show. Takes on Richard Palencia next Friday night. LFA 84 live on UFC Fight Pass. Should be a great night of action and a fun fight at 135 pounds. Des, appreciate the time once again, man. Before we let you go, let the folks know where they can find and follow you on social media. Any shout outs, anything else you want to get off your chest? The floor is yours.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram, the Tyrant MMA. Also on Twitter, it's Desi MMA, DEZZY MMA. Follow me also. I mean, you guys could also follow me on Facebook, you know, just Desmond Torres. Reach out to me. You know, I'm always reaching out to fans whenever they got anything to say. I'm not one to overlook anyone.
Thank you, Des. All the best to you over these next 8 days, man. Stay healthy. This is it's a weird time we're living in.
Hey, you too, bro. Wash those hands.
I know, right? See you later, man.